The Sacred Mass, Chapter 1, The Little Ogre. The city-state of Allan was situated by the beach. The port was to the east and the beach to the west. Casting a shadow over the beach was a cliff. The cliff was the foundation of an ancient magic tower. Surrounding this tower were ruins of tiny fishing hamlets and a cemetery. It was a popular belief that the place was haunted. 2 years ago, Allan had been invaded by the Magus army of the tyrannical elf king Julian. This fall invasion led to the creation of the Sacred Mass Warriors Guild. The guild dealt with both local and international problems. The guild was named after the relic used by the guildmaster, a Magus assassin cordially known as the Mad Elf Eric. Eric was a former battle slave of the Elf King, and he considered his life mission to kill Julian. Eric claimed that the Sacred Mass amplified his magical abilities, though any true magician could tell that the Mass did absolutely nothing. The Mass itself acted as a symbol of freedom and independence. The other core guild members were Spy Master Sophina and the Black Knight Grimory, whose true identity was the bastard Prince Gregory. Grimory was everything that a knight aspired to be. He was always poised, and he was a womanizer to boot. He earned his fame to the heroism he displayed when he repelled the elven invaders led by Julian. With the end of the war, when the war ended, Spy Master Sophina decided to mythologize and monetize Grimory's heroic exploits. Thanks to her novels and clever marketing, Grimory became a larger-than-life character, and to help sell Sophina's books, Grimory spent his idle time with the nobility to delight them with his charm. He made cameo appearances at bars to look for the love of his life, and for the last 2 years, Gregory had lived a double life, both as Gregory and Grimory. His Grimory persona was someone that people respected and admired. Gregory, on the other hand, only inspired ridicule and pity. The other noteworthy war heroes were the Ogre brothers. They had been adopted by an elderly rich couple that had no children. Braun, the eldest brother, was a tan biscuit with a strong face. His little brother Caron, on the other hand, was slender and too pretty for a man. Caron resembled his dead mother a bit too much. He had inherited his mother's silver blonde hair, her fragile lady fingers, her angelic face, and rosy lips. It was the popular opinion that poor Caron had finally gone completely insane. The warriors believed that Caron was suffering from PTSD. As one of the few white mages in Wallen, the entire weight of countering the enemy magic had fallen on him, and while the enemy black mages fought with fire and brimstone, Caron opted to find a painless and merciful solution to neutralize the enemy magic. Caron was an expert with a sleep spell. He could either lull the enemies to sleep or keep the war mages from having a decent night's sleep. And since sleep spells were underrated, most war mages were not trained to counter its influence. And for the mages that could counter the spell, Caron created for them the insomnia spell. And after 3 nights of not sleeping, the enemy war mages were completely neutralized. It was this simple ingenuity that had won him the respect of the Warriors Guild and the people of Wallen. While the people of Wallen speculated about the source of Caron's madness, his brother Braun knew the truth. Caron had gone mad due to his unrequited love for Grimory. Many a times he had seen Caron talking to himself, and upon closer inspection, Braun had seen his brother talking to one of the many lithographs of Grimory that littered the walls of his bathroom and bedroom. On a warm summer night, Caron's insomnia and roaming brought him to the Sacred Mass Warriors Guild in search of Grimory. The main hall also functioned as a bar, and to the left of the bar there was a small stage where the bards regularly performed, and to the right there were 2 large windows, and in the middle, the notice board with the contracts. On top of the notice board there was a painting of Caron in his ornamental white mage robes. Caron greatly disliked the painting, for it made him out to look like some type of hero. Once he had asked Eric to remove the painting, but Eric had politely declined without giving a specific reason. The painting did not have a signature, and when Caron entered the Sacred Mass Guild, his eyes were naturally drawn to the painting. The torches and the candles near the painting made it impossible to ignore. And every night Caron pondered who had gone into all of the trouble of making this life-size painting of himself, the little ogre. and as much as Caron despised the painting, it truly did capture his likeness well, his delicate hands, the delicate nose, and the gentle rosewood eyes, so different from his brother's ultramarine eyes. Caron looked about the bar counter for an empty seat, and he smiled when he noticed the familiar silhouette. Sitting at the bar was Grimory, with his signature black armor with its ornamental red spines that fell from the back of the helmet, and a metallic eye opening the back of the helmet and of the armor, and the magical armor, known as Inanis, was quite peculiar indeed. Eric described it as a type of fluid armor, and some of the members of the guild claimed to have heard the armor speaking to them, and one time a thief had tried to take the armor, and when he put it on, the armor shrunk and crushed his bones. The eye seemed to smile before closing itself again. Not turning around, Grimory said, "Have a seat, Caron." Not waiting for a second invitation, Caron sat beside Grimory. Grimory turned his head to look at Caron, and Caron could not see his eye due to the fact that the helmet was always closed, though the armor at the moment was open enough for the chin and the mouth to be visible. Grimory took a small sip of his drink before sighing. "Are the fishes not biting today?" asked Caron. "Do you see any fishes?" asked Grimory. Caron looked about, and other than the regulars and a small group of male travelers, there was not a proper catch in sight, with the exception of Sofina. The self-proclaimed nun, Sofina, was sporting an elegant black dress, and her flashy pink hair was decorated with a cyclet that had a shimmering veil, and her delicate hands were encrusted with diamonds. Sofina was in the middle of playing the guitar while she sang some of the native music from her little island of Martisor, and her eyes glistened in ashy blue, and she had a silky voice of a siren. Sofina was coveted by many of the nobles who imagined that she was a mermaid due to her voice. Sofina was tough but a fair boss who paid living wages, and even to the apprentice a tradition did not see a sixpence to the maid journeyman. Sofina was currently singing her favorite song, which epitomized her love of stuff. "But I prefer a man who lives and gives expensive jewels." Grimory chuckled before taking a sip from his drink. The barkeep served Caron his usual glass of Moscato, and when Caron got his drink, he gestured his glass to make a toast. "To Sofina." "To our greedy mistress," said Grimory, clicking glasses with Caron, and he added, "Can I try yours?" Caron handed his glass, and he smiled when he saw Grimory taking a small sip, and the travelers became a bit boisterous and they started laughing. Caron was too focused on Grimory and the glass he had just grazed with his lips. Caron did not realize that the travelers were laughing at him. The outsiders had noticed that Caron was a man wearing a dress. Bron worried often about his brother roaming about in such a getup. He knew that the locals would not mind. Outsiders were another matter. One's economy was heavily dependent on trade and tourism, and sometimes outsiders came to cause problems. On that particular night, Caron was sporting a golden dress with silver thread embroidery with a small ornamental pearls. He was wrapped in a red shawl which also covered his head, and his blonde hair was tied in an elegant braid. Around his waist, Caron wore a leather belt with a dagger. Bron often insisted that Caron not leave the house without it. The two made small talk for half an hour, and Caron finally said, "Grimory, never mind." "I do mind, Caron, and tell me what you want to say, and don't leave me in suspense," said Grimory, pushing his face uncomfortably close to Caron. Caron crawled into his shawl, and a cold wind was sweeping into the city from the ocean, and the open windows of the bar allowed it to permeate the interior of the guild hall. A night man's face stood on the shoulder of the armor, followed by a small beak. Caron heard Inanis speak, the armor. "Let me guess, you wish to dance with this Grimory?" Grimory chuckled, and Caron allowed for Grimory to lower his shawl. He then said, "Well, you certainly did go to a lot of work, right down to the makeup, and I haven't anything better to do with my time at the moment, and I feel the need to stretch my legs lest they biologically fuse with this bar stool." "I don't understand," said Caron, putting his shawl back around his head defensively. Grimory sighed in frustration before getting up and doing a gentlemanly bow, and he stretched his hand before saying, "This dance, my lady." After a few minutes of hesitation, Caron got up and took the hand that Grimory was offering. Grimory stood straight and he drew Caron closer to assume the dancing position, and while he was at it, he also released Caron from the bindings of the shawl he was clinging to. Grimory handed the shawl to the barkeep and then he took Caron to the dance area. Sofina began to play the waltz in E minor by Carulli. Grimory placed his hand around Caron's waist before taking his hand, and the two gracefully glided through the hall. After the second song, Caron would relax himself enough to look at Grimory's armored face, and by the third hour, Caron was finally enjoying himself. And the third song, a sheltered smile appeared on his face, and he unconsciously drew near to Grimory, almost as if he wanted to kiss him. Around 4 a.m., Eric started making his way downstairs, and the third floor of the guild had the private quarters of Eric, Sofina, and Gregory. Eric was dressed in a night robe, and his skin was the color of ash, and he had pointed ears, as common among elves. His face was diamond-shaped, with narrow jawline, with elegant cheekbones, and his eyes and hair were the color of night, as in black hair. Eric yawned and said to Sofina, "Oh, by the gods, does anyone ever sleep?" "I can play you a lullaby if it pleases you," said Sofina. Eric sat down in a couch near the stage, and yawning he said, "I'm awake now, so do whatever you want." "That was my original intention," said Sofina, laughing before playing the Etude in E minor by Francisco Terrenga. The peace of the night was eventually broken by a nosy traveler, and the fellow came out to Grimory and he tapped him on the shoulder. Grimory stopped dancing and he crossed his arms before speaking to the fellow. He said, annoyed, "Can I help you with something, sir?" "No, but I think I can help you with something," said the fellow traveler. The traveler grabbed a hold of the neck portion of Caron's dress, and he pulled downwards, undoing the buttons, and revealing Caron's masculine chest. The motion caused Caron to fall forward, and he had to rely on his hands to keep himself from smashing against the floor. The traveler continued as thus, "I knew it. That woman is a man. You must be careful with whom you pick up at the bar, and those freaks are crafty." Caron got up in a fury, and he swiftly slashed the hand of his assailant with one single motion with his knife. He was about to stab the man, but Grimory stayed his hand. He whispered, "He isn't worth it." Caron sheathed his knife and he left the guild in a huff, and Eric addressed Grimory by his true name. "Greg, go after him. I will handle things from here." Grimory ran after Caron while carrying his shawl, and as soon as he left, the members of the Warriors Guild fell upon the rude traveler who had disrespected their beloved white mage. And after beating the lot to a bloody pulp, the warriors threw the traveler out of the city. Grimory caught up to Caron, who was roaming the empty marketplace. He placed his hand on Caron's shoulder to get him to stop, and Caron, still in a fury, turned around and stabbed Grimory. The knife did not make a dent in the armor, and shocked at his foolishness, Caron said, "Grim, I'm sorry." "It's fine, don't worry about it. You couldn't hurt me even if you wanted to," said Grimory, laughing. And he buttoned up Caron, and then he wrapped him in his shawl, and he added, "Let me take you home." Caron accepted the offer, and he wrapped both his hands around Grimory's elbow. Alright, that's the end of that chapter. Bye-bye, God bless.